Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the IRS War Room podcast. Now, before we get started, my attorney would like me to remind you that this is just a podcast and it's for educational purposes only. Every case is different. So please do not watch this episode, call the SBA or the IRS and say Melinda said, because Melinda have not said anything. Okay. Now let's get into it. So I was supposed to film a completely different episode. I already had it planned out. I had my notes in place. I did my research. We were supposed to talk about Wisconsin becoming the fifth state for the SBA's state-by-state enforcement. But the other day, the SBA dropped a new announcement that stopped me in my tracks. I mean, completely stopped me in my track, because what they announced is bigger than Wisconsin, and it is also bigger than the state-by-state enforcement. Now, in my opinion, that announcement is one of the biggest fraud developments that we've seen all year, outside of the 562,000 people that were referred to the Department of Treasury for either investigations or collections. Now, if you've been following this podcast, then you already know what I've been saying for weeks. You know that I've been saying that this enforcement doesn't feel random. It felt planned. It did not feel like a few files just happened to land on the wrong desk. Okay. And now with that announcement, the SBA just confirmed that. So the SBA, if you missed my announcement, I announced it last week. The SBA announced that it is expanding the use of Palantir software to help identify, investigate, and support the prosecution of the suspected fraud that was tied to the PPP loans and the EIDL loan. According to the agency, the software will also help analyze large datasets, flag applications, identify possible coordinated schemes, generate investigative leads, and also identify funds that were obtained through false or fraudulent applications for further action. That is huge. Now, before social media chops this up and turn it into a science fiction movie, let's slow down a little bit, because they're good for doing that kind of stuff. I already know what some people are going to do. They are going to hear the word AI, and they're going to hear the word Palantir, and they're going to start posting dramatic videos talking about how AI is coming after everybody. That is not what SBA said, and that is not what I'm saying either. Okay, let's be clear about that. So let's state the facts. The announcement is not about a robot replacing investigators. It is about the government improving its ability to sort through these huge amounts of information a little bit more efficiently. That is the very important difference. So let's answer the obvious questions. What is Palantir? So here's the simplest explanation. Imagine you had thousands of pandemic loan fraud applications. We'll say real applications too. You had the applications, the payroll reports, the bank statements, the tax returns, the business records, the addresses, the phone numbers, the email addresses, the ownership records, the supporting documents, all of that. Okay. Now imagine trying to manually compare all of that information across all of those files. No team of investigators, no matter how hard they're working, is going to do that quickly or at a scale without help. That is where technology comes in. That's what Palantir is. According to the SBA, the tools that Palantir have, it helps surface the patterns, the flags, the unusual activity, and is also going to help identify coordinated fraud schemes and generate investigative leads. Okay, I want you to hear that phrase clearly if you did not hear that. Generate investigative leads. It does not replace investigators. What it does is it helps point investigators towards the places they may want to look more closely. That's a huge difference. Okay. All right. That right there is why I believe that this announcement changes the conversations, because until now, we've been talking about the SBA's state by state fraud crackdown, right? If you are tuning in for the first time, you got to go back and watch the old videos. We talked about the California being investigated. Ohio was the second state, Minnesota, Maine, and last week they announced state number 5, which is Wisconsin. And I kept telling y'all that this feels organized. I just couldn't really get my hands on exactly what they were doing. Well, now we know something else. They are not just moving state by state. They are also investing in better tools to help those efforts move faster and go deeper. That matters. Now, investigators are no longer limited to what one person notices while reviewing one file. They got a whole team of robots now. They can look for relationships across thousands and even hundreds of thousands of files. Think about what that means. The same phone number appearing on multiple applications, the same email addresses tied to unrelated businesses, but their identical language across the files, identical payroll numbers, the same supporting documents that they made up are showing up over and over again. Strange ownership overlaps. Everybody own the same thing, same owners, same names. The patterns that do not automatically prove fraud, but they can absolutely help the government decide what deserves a closer look. And that is exactly how a lot of investigations begin. Now, let me tell you what really made me stop and read this release. The AI story was big, but it was not even the biggest part of the story. And I'll add the link to the press release in the comments. Buried further down, the SBA reminded everybody that they had already referred more than 560,000 suspected fraud borrowers that were tied to about $22 billion in the pandemic era loans to the Department of U.S. Treasury. So more than 560,000 suspected borrowers, approximately $22 billion, all were referred to Treasury for collections. So we know that this is not a pilot program. This is not a warning shot. This is the government saying, we might do something one day. That is action. So they're not talking anymore. They about that action. And this is why I keep telling business owners that this is not the time to sit back and assume that the pandemic conversations is fading away. It is not fading. It is a evolving story of investigations. And that is the difference of the level of the seriousness that it has right now. Because now the conversation is not just about finding the suspicious files. Okay. It also happens to be about what happens after the government believes money is owed and they want their money back. They are circling the block. They want their coins. That is what the Treasury piece tells me. Somebody has to do the collecting. And when the government starts talking about the recovery of funds, that should get everybody's attention. Now, before somebody clips this episode and throws it on social media and says, Melinda said AI coming after all the business owners. Let me be clear. That is not what I said. There is a huge difference between an honest business owner who actually qualified for relief, they kept good records, and they used the funds appropriately, versus someone who intentionally submitted false information. Those are not the same thing, not even close. There is also a difference between receiving the PPP loan and fraudulently obtaining one. Everybody wasn't fraudsters during the PPP loan era. Those are not the same conversations. So if you are a business owner, a honest business owner who qualified, you accurately reported your payroll, you kept your records, and you used the funds the way that the program required, this episode is not here to make you panic, okay? That is not the point. The point is to give facts, what's missing everywhere, to business owners, because records matter, not the opinions, not the guesses, and not, I think that's what happened. Records matter. And this is where people also get themselves into trouble years later, because time kind of passes by. Employees leave, the payroll companies changes, the CPAs retire, the emails disappears, the files get lost, and the business is moved. So people assume that someone else kept everything. And then one day the government has questions and the business owner cannot put their hands on their records. That is a huge problem. So, business owners, let me ask you a very simple question. If somebody asked you today for your PPP loan application, your payroll reports, your forgiveness package, your calculations that determine the loan amount, the documents that you use to support your and certify your numbers on your application, would you know where those records are? That's all I'm saying. If the answer is no, do not wait until somebody asks. You need to go and find them, and you need to do that today if you were an honest business owner. And let me tell you the biggest mistake that I see business owners make. They assume if nobody has contacted them by now, then they must be fine. I don't even know where that came from. Seriously, who started that rumor? Because that announcement, I couldn't find it in the SBA press releases. It does not support anything that I have read or researched. If anything, it tells me that the government is improving its ability to analyze the information more efficiently than before. So again, that does not mean everybody is under investigation. It means the government's ability to sort through information, it just keeps getting better. That is the story that I want you all to understand. And can I say something with love? This is with love to everybody. Please stop getting serious legal or enforcement advice from people who have never, ever represented anyone before the IRS. Leave TikTok and Facebook University and attorneys alone, the fake attorneys alone. The fake representatives, leave them alone, please. Social media has convinced too many people that every tax problem has a 30-second answer and a catchy caption. It doesn't. This is real life. Like, I cannot tell you how many consultations start with, well, this guy on TikTok, or, well, the lady on YouTube. Okay, I asked, did that person actually review your file? Did they look at your payroll records? Did they compare the numbers to your tax return? Did they even review your loan application? Did they review your forgiveness package? If the answer is no, they are speaking generally. Your case deserves specifics. Like, this is very serious. And while we're here, Oh gosh, while we're here, let's go ahead and address the question I know some of you are already thinking. Melinda, my PPP loan was forgiven. Okay, great. Yes, that is amazing. But forgiveness does not automatically mean a file can never be reviewed again. If there are allegations of false information that was submitted, those are separate issues. Forgiveness asks whether the loan met the requirements under that process. Okay. An investigation asks whether the underlying information was truthful. Those are different legal questions. And that is why I keep saying the same thing. You got to know your file. You can't assume. You got to know. And let me kill the myth, another myth. Gosh. And let me kill another myth while I'm here. They're only looking at the $1 million loans. No, we have already seen Department of Justice cases involving fraudulently loans, PPP loans around $20,000. You know them little funky $20,000 that y'all keep talking about? They are receiving prison sentences, okay? So stop measuring risk by loan amounts alone. Better question to ask is not how big was the loan? The better question is, can the information submitted be supported? That's the real question. Now, let me tell you what I am most concerned about now. Not the people who intentionally committed fraud. They already know that them people after them, okay? I am not concerned. I am concerned about the business owner who trusted somebody, the one who actually signed the paperwork without fully understanding it. Because everybody, again, everybody wasn't doing fraud during the pandemic. The one who assumed that if the bank processed it, it must be fine. Because you have processing companies that are also being sent to prison as well. I talked about that on one of my past videos. You got to go back and look at that. The one who assumed that if it was forgiven, the conversation was over forever. That's not how it works. That is the type of business owner that I see blindsided all the time. And one of the hardest conversations I have is when I ask a client, okay, show me the PPP file. And they say, I don't have one. I'm like, huh? What do you mean you don't have one, friend? Come on, you got to show me something. The company that helped me never gave me copies. This is what I'm being told. Or I don't know where they are. Them people done submitted them application in these folks' name, got they cut, and they long gone. Another one of my personal favorites. I thought they kept all that. No, business owners, please hear me. This is your business. This is your EIN number. These are your records, and it is your responsibility. That's how the government is going to look at it. Never, ever let somebody prepare federal documents tied to your business without keeping copies for yourself. Never. That's business 101. And let me tell you why this matters way beyond the PPP, because this exact same story is coming up all over again with the ERC. Business owners who don't have copies of their ERC applications. They don't know what was filed. They can't find the preparer. The promoter scanners disappeared. The website is gone. That fake landing page that they made is gone. And the company is dissolved. If there was ever a real company, it's long gone. And now they are trying to reconstruct their own history while the government is already asking questions and building an investigation against them. Do not let that be you, please. If I owned a business and I had I received the PPP funds, here is exactly what I would do this afternoon. Don't wait until tomorrow. Don't wait until next week. You need to do this right now. I will pull the entire PPP file. You need to get the application. You need to get the payroll reports. You need to get the forgiveness application. You need to get the bank statements. Okay. This is everything that you need to get. The supporting records. You need the calculations. You need the correspondence. You need everything, not just some of the stuff. You need it all. And then I would ask myself one very simple question. If somebody asked me 6 months from now to explain every number in this file, could I do it? If the answer is yes, wonderful. I celebrate you. I'm so freaking proud of you. If the answer is no, I'm not shaming you. I want you to figure out why today. Why is this on here? What does this mean? What does that mean? Not when somebody sends you a letter. You need to start figuring that out right now, because that is what preparation looks like. Okay. Stop listening to the rumors on Facebook. Facebook is not a strategy. Trusting something somebody told you 4 years ago without reviewing your own records is definitely not a strategy, because this is what preparation looks like. And if you have been following me for any amount of time, you already know how I feel about this. Hope is not a strategy. Okay. We hope, no, that old saying, up with hope, down with dope. Hope is not a strategy here. Okay. Ignoring certified mail is not a strategy. Listening to rumors on Facebook, that is not a strategy, friend. Trusting something somebody told you 4 years ago without reviewing your own records is definitely not a strategy. All right. You got to be prepared. Preparation is a strategy. You need a documentation. Documentation is a strategy. You need to understand your own file. Understanding your file is a strategy. And if I could sit down with every business owner in America right now, this is exactly what I would tell them. Pull your file. Don't wait. That's it. Pack up. I'm done for today. Make sure you have your original application, your payroll reports, your forgiveness package, your supported documents, your calculations, and your correspondence. And if you pull your file and something does not make sense, don't panic. And please, 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 PPP, please, please, please do not start shredding documents. That's not a strategy, my friends. No. Do not start calling the government agencies trying to explain the situation before you even understand your own facts. Slow down. Figure out what was filed. Understand your records, then make informed decisions based off of your own understanding and research. Every file deserves to be reviewed on its own. Now, let me say one more thing before I close out. A lot of business owners are waiting until they are already in crisis before they think about who they are going to retain to get assistance with this. That is a huge mistake. Not every CPA handles payroll tax controversy. Not every tax preparer deals with the IRS revenue officers. And not every attorney focuses on federal tax controversy. Not every enrolled agent handles employment tax cases. So these are all specialized matters. So make sure the person that you retain understand this field, because it's a specialty and it is very serious. Preparing a return and defending one are two different skill sets. Trust me, I don't do preparation at all. I only do representation, so I fully understand both. So if you need help, you need to start asking better questions. You need to ask, how many controversy cases have they actually handled? This is you interviewing the person that you're about to retain to save your livelihood. Okay. These are the things that you need to ask them. Ask them whether they have dealt with the revenue officer before. because not everybody has dealt with the revenue officer. If you don't know how to deal with the revenue officer, you are already behind, my friend. Ask whether they have handled payroll tax cases, ERC scams, or trust fund recovery trust investigations. If they say no to any of those, you need to find somebody else. I'm just going to be upfront and honest with you. Experience matters. Now, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one thought. I think for years, business owners have been asking the wrong questions. They've been asking, do you think the government is going to look at my file? I do not think that is the question anymore. I think this announcement, the press release that the SBA issued, I think that changed the question. The better question is, if somebody reviewed my file, would I be ready? The question has nothing to do with fear. It has everything to do with preparation. So if you are watching this because you received an IRS letter in the mail or an ERC notice, or if you have been assigned a revenue officer with the Internal Revenue Service, or if you are just simply trying to understand where your business stands, please do not wait until your options become limited. All right. Don't wait until you receive a 1058, a letter 1058, or notice 1058 in the mail from the Internal Revenue Service, threatening to garnish your wages, freeze your bank accounts, and all that other stuff. The earlier you understand your file, the more options that you usually have. If you need an experienced representation, my team and I would love to review your situation. Visit mjtax.com, or you can give our office a call at 706-507-2481 to schedule a confidential consultation. We will review your case, we'll explain your options, and help you build your own strategy before the government builds one for you. I also want to hear from you all. Drop in the comments, do you think the artificial intelligence, AI, is going to change the way the government investigate financial fraud? And if there is another enforcement story that you want me to break down, leave that in the comments too. I actually do read and respond to the comments myself. A lot of questions become future episodes for the IRS War Room. Next week, we are going even deeper. We are going inside an actual IRS revenue officer case. We are talking about federal tax liens, levies, bank account seizures, summons, financial statements, the trust fund recovery penalty, and the biggest mistakes that I see business owners make even before they hire representation or hire the wrong type of person to represent them. Somebody with no experience in fraud, somebody with no experience in payroll tax. Trust me, if you have never worked with a revenue officer, you do not want your first lesson to be when one shows up by asking you for your name. Trust me, okay? I'm Melinda Tolbert, America's payroll tax expert. And remember, government enforcement will continue to evolve. Technology will continue to improve. But one thing has not changed. The businesses that survive government scrutiny are not always the biggest. All right. They are the ones that kept good records. They asked the right questions, and they are prepared before the letter even arrives in the mail. The IRS has a strategy. You need one too. Thank you so much for joining me in the IRS War Room. I'll see you next time. Peace.